good morning. Welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and this is your latest Manchester United transfers news. And I tell you what, fasten your seatbelts. It's a bit of a transfer madness. 9 days to go in this transfer window. Deals that we thought would be done permanently now looking like they could be loans. Ugarte, as we know. Amrabaat, also McTominay could well be a loan deal now. We're looking at Atalanta midfielder, but not for this summer transfer window. Talks progressing very well from good sources around Ederson, which we'll talk about as well. And the normal transfer madness of a last week of a transfer window where he might go, he might go, he might go, he might go. I'll tell you what, she might not go because it's a men's football team and that's just a fact. But the point is, there's so much going on. There's so much to react to. And I think what better place to start, just very, very quickly, Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail coming out this morning talking about the Ugarte deal. A little bit more. I don't want to spend loads on this because there is a lot I want to talk about. Very excited about the potential Ederson stuff that's going on and the fact that we might be looking at McTominay going on loan. I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this. But let's start off with this Ugarte update. So Chris Wheeler is saying exactly what we said last night, that it's a trap. Man United offered Ugarte on loan with an obligation to buy for £51 million. But Manchester United still aren't taking the bait and still feel that is too much money for Manchester United. So basically, it's as we said last night, Manchester United want to pay 50 million euros. They want to pay 42 million pounds. They want to pay 50 million euros. PSG want 60 million euros, 52 million pounds. We are apart by 10 million. So this loan with an obligation to buy is still, yeah, you can buy him in a year for 60 million euros, which is what United don't want to pay now. It is a little bit sticky. It is a little bit dirty tricks from PSG. It is a little bit, trying to get in through the back door with the same deal that we won't pay now. I think there has to be a little bit of wiggle room here. The most obvious bit of wiggle room is they want 60 million euros. We want to pay 50 million euros. Let's pay 50 million euros with add-ons of 5 and meet in the middle. I mean, it's just incredible that you've got a player that wants to come, a club that wants to sign him, a club that wants to sell him, and you are apart on 10 million euros. It's just incredible to me. So look, as we've already spoken about this last night, PSG are offering up that year loan because they still want to get what they want now. Man United probably won't take it because they don't want to pay next year what they don't want to pay now. In fact, when you think about it, it might be worse to pay next year what you don't want to pay this year, because if the loan goes okay, you might think he's not worth it even more. So yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how that one pans out, but a little bit more there on what the price is. I find it strange that Lucas knows about Scott's situation. Perhaps Scott is part of the leaks in the past. Fingers crossed for Ugarte, says Liam. Liam, you'd have to give us a little bit more there. I don't read anything that guy's got to say. I think he's toxic. He said the same about me. I don't read anything he's got to say. So you'll have to bring it into the news show because I'm not interested. I think he's the master of stating the obvious this morning and every other morning. In fact, it reminds me of my being around my grand's house about 10 years ago. I just brought some fish and chips for us all round. There was salt and vinegar, but when I opened up the cupboard, I wanted some ketchup. There was no sauces, which is a bit like Luckhurst. Anyway, let's get into the show. Maybe Liam could tell us what that's all about. Is there any value in the free agent market, says Tech? I wouldn't have thought there's anything in the free agent market this late in the transfer window. I wouldn't have thought so, really. No, but let's talk about Scott McTominay, because actually this might generate a little bit. I really want to talk about the Ederson story. Can I talk about the? I can't. I will talk about the Ederson story. I'm really excited about this because it's a good source from Italy saying that we're in talks with Atalanta about Ederson. But I'll give you the detail on that in a minute. Rabiot is probably a good shout. I don't know what's happening with Rabiot, and he is a free agent. But is he good value? Is he? Tech says, is there any good value? He's not good value at 250k a week, is he? Let's talk about Scott McTominay. So numerous stories coming in overnight from Italy and beyond that Napoli, McTominay, Conte all like each other. They're all in constant contact, but Napoli ain't got the money. And Napoli's priority is Lukaku. And we've got to actually also say, as much as Fulham were interested in Scott McTominay, they've just spent £50 million on Burge and Anderson. They've bought Anderson from Crystal Palace for £30 million. He's older than Scott McTominay and he's a centre-back. They've bought Sander Berge for 20. So I think we've got to be realistic here. I was listening to the radio this morning, Talk Shite, and effectively they were talking about Scott McTominay. And you know what they were saying? I think it was Ali McCoist and Andy Townsend, right? And look, I like them, but their opinion on this is just shocking. They don't watch Man United, basically. Ali's always been a massive fan of McTominay, and I just don't think they watch Man United. And effectively, what they were saying was that, you know, every team needs a Scott McTominay. They're worth their weight in gold. They'll give everything to the shirt. They can pop up with important goals. Every team needs a Scott McTominay. And I thought, you know what? What crap punditry that is. One, you don't watch Man United every week, so you don't see what most of us see. The fact is, he is very useful coming on and getting a goal in the box. But for the rest of if you start him, it's 80 minutes of hide and seek. I'm fed up with this sentimentality. We had it with Wan-Bissaka. The minute we started talking, you know, for the last 2 years, everybody wants to sell Wan-Bissaka. The minute you start talking about selling Wan-Bissaka, sentimentality kicks in. And they go, oh, no, Aaron's such a good lad. He's such a good lad. You need a player like that. You need a player like that in the squad. You do. You need a player like that. Oh, we can't be selling Wan-Bissaka. Sentimentality FC. You know the sentimentality I've got? Winning Premier League titles, and I've missed it for over a decade. Oh, we've got to get ruthless. And the same thing's happening with McTominay now. Oh, you can't be selling McTominay. You need a player like that around. Yeah, you do. Oh, yeah, he's worth the weight in gold. He's worth his weight in gold, he is. Yeah, yeah. He's about as useful as a Christmas jumper. You know, once a year, for about 2 weeks, everyone says, oh, amazing, amazing. But there's another 48 weeks where it's just irrelevant. Not everybody needs a Scott McTominay. Fulham never bloody wanted McTominay. That was a load of bollocks. Oh, we can't afford... They're not Scottish. Fulham can't afford Scott McTominay. We can't afford 25 million. We can't afford 25 million. Oh, we've just spent 20 million on Burge and 30 million on Anderson. They were bloody playing us. We need to move him on ASAP. Not everybody needs a Scott McTominay. It's absolute talk rubbish. Absolute nonsense. This sentimentality, you know what it basically is? He's a nice kid from the youth setup who turns up on time and works hard. Have Man City got one of them players? Have Arsenal got one of them players? Have Liverpool got one of them players? Have they? Bollocks. You know what players they've got? Good players. Good players who turn up and work hard. They're not championing passion merchants. They are championing talent. Until we start learning this lesson, we will never progress. And I'm not surprised to listen to that on the radio this morning. And I'm not surprised to see it in this chat or online as well. I saw a compilation of McTominay this morning on Twitter. You know what it was? Blocks and headers. I'm like, oh my God. Am I watching the season highlights for Forest Green Rovers? Or whatever they're bloody called. Blocks and headers. Oh, everyone needs one of these. They don't need one of these. We don't need one of these. We need a bloody midfielder who can play as a number 6. That's what we bloody need. We don't need someone to chuck on when we're losing 1-0 to Brentford. Don't be fucking losing 1-0 to Brentford in the first place. Get hold of the ball. Get 70% possession. Create 12 chances. Win the fucking game. Don't be in a position where you're losing to Brentford and you've got to throw a bloody player into the box anyway. Ah, it's mad. It's absolutely crazy. It really is. It amazes me. But bringing it back to breaking news, the story coming out of Italy is that Napoli can't afford McTominay. It's, I bet if you translate Napoli from Italian to English, it's Fulham. Because it's the same old story again. Oh, we love McTominay. We love him. Oh, we love Scott McTominay. Oh, we can't afford him. We just spent 50 million on a centre-back and a midfielder. Napoli. We love McTominay. We love McTominay. Bad Fabrizio impression there. Napoli love McTominay. We've just gone and bought Lukaku and Neres for 60 million. If they loved him that much, they'd find the bloody money. And what they're talking about now is a loan deal. We're talking about Scott McTominay going on loan with an obligation to buy from Napoli. Forget about it. I'd rather he sat on the bench and came on against Brentford when we're losing than go on loan. But it's an absolute waste of time. Absolute waste of time. And I tell you that, but that's what we're talking about. This transfer window, it really pisses me off. In no way am I blaming Ineos for this. My blame lies solely with ex-employees and current owners of Manchester United. I'm talking Woodward, Arnold, Murta, Judge and the Glazers. I'm looking around in these last few weeks and days of the transfer window, and I'm looking at Man United trying to sell players, and it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. You know, we're going from 25 to 20 million to loan deals because we've got no bloody money and nobody will buy our players. And then I'm looking at Chelsea, Aston Villa, Newcastle, bloody Spurs selling Skip for 25 million. I can't speak. I can't speak. And we can't sell Scott McTominay. And yet Spurs are selling Skip for 25 million. I'd rather buy a Skip than the actual player. 25 million for Oliver Skip from Spurs. Oliver shit. No, I'm only joking. It's just, I'm using that for content. But my point is, if I said to you, Oliver Skip, 25 million, you'd say you've missed the point out between 2 and 5. And yet we can't get 25 million for Scott McTominay, who legitimately scored Premier League goals last season. Like, he legitimately scored goals. Skips are good crisps, CY7. So explain to me why we can't get a good fee for Scott McTominay. Explain to me why no one will give us more than £20 million for Scott McTominay. Because honestly, I'm a little bit baffled. Are we crap at selling? Well, we are crap at selling when they're on a big wage. You can't sell a player who's on 120k a week and is worth half that. But Scott McTominay's wage isn't even that much. He scored a few goals in the Premier League last year, and we can't get 20 million for him. Yet some Premier League clubs are giving £20 million for a kid who's never played before. Some Premier League clubs are giving £25 million for Skip, 35 million for Smith Rowe. We can't get £20 million for Scott McTominay, who isn't on 100 grand a week, he's on 60. So it is crazy to me how we're probably still going to be paying from the legacy of a shit reputation because we just can't sell. I saw an article today and I got really excited. 1 in, 5 out. And I was like, oh, come on. The madness is happening at the end of the window. You know, with the 5 out were Mabry, Mabry, Odielli, Fish, Palistri, and I can't remember who the 5th one was, but it wasn't rockets. It wasn't going to get you excited. I was like, that's not 5 outs. That's not 5 outs. I'm not having that. That's like 1.5 outs. In fact, it's probably not even that. And I'm like, it wasn't Wan-Bissaka. Yeah, it was basically just a low Vitek. It was Vitek. Yeah, it was bloody Vitek. And I've looked at the article, 1 in, 5 out, and I'm going, yabba dabba do. And I look at the list and I go, surely it's going to get better. All right, they're starting off with Palistri. They're keeping the good stuff till the end here. And it ended with Vitek. Yeah, and I was just like, oh, for God's sake, mate. For God's sake. So, yeah, look, I can't, you know what I can't do? I can throw the banter. I can ridicule. I can say what a big crock of shit it is that everyone needs a Scott McTominay, but I can't actually start ranting and raving about transfer setbacks. In fact, I said we were going to say transfer setback as the title. I said call it transfer madness because at least madness, it's a madness. I can't be doing with the negativity, you know. I can't because I think that there is a quite clear excuse here. And I hate excuses. We all hate excuses. But there's a clear excuse here. And it's 10 years. Well, it's more than 10 years. But if you look at the last 10 years, it's 10 years of complete and utter sabotage to a reputation of a great football club. And it's damaging. It's damaging. I think people look at us, even when we've got a player that's probably worth 25 million in McTominay, I think clubs look at us and go, you can't give him 25 million. It's Man United. Nah, you've got to absolutely rinse them. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but I wouldn't loan Scott McTominay to Napoli, even if it's an obligation to buy. I wouldn't loan him unless they were going to give us 30 million quid because I just think, fuck off. We've had him here that long. Everyone needs a Scott McTominay. I mean, you know, he's inoffensive. And that's just on the pitch. No, he's inoffensive. He works hard. I would rather keep him than give him to Napoli on loan. I really would. I just think sod off. I've always said I'll believe it when I see it. Apparently, it's odds on that Sancho's going to stay. Let's keep them all. Keep Maguire, keep Casemiro, keep Eriksen, keep Lindelof, keep McTominay, keep Sancho. You know, 6 players that we needed to move on. Keep them all. Sod it. What's the point? If those 5 are staying, keep McTominay as well. You know, there was 7 players that needed to go. We've got rid of 1. It was Wan-Bissaka. Why not just keep McTominay now? I hope things can change at the end of the window. I mean, in fact, on Eriksen, I read something this morning about Eriksen. It might have been in the Manchester Evening News, actually, and it was saying that you know, Man United have played their cards close to their chest about Eriksen. You know, they've played the long game, and they're quietly confident that in the last few days they'll get a deal. And I'm like, whatever. 150k a week, 1 year left on his deal, well into his 30s, and we think we're going to get a deal for Eriksen. The only deal we'll get with Eriksen is an effective free transfer, which is what we've done with Donny. Scott McTominay was used as a negotiation chip for Fulham and Napoli. Ugarte, PSG might be able to go down to 50 plus 5, but remember we want to across multiple years. Maybe PSG want too much up front, says Joshua. Robbo says, don't forget that McTominay is part of the best squad depth in the league, according to Gary Neville. You know that Gary Neville comment about best squad depth in the league and us finishing above Liverpool? I just sometimes wonder, does he engage his brain? I mean, he gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. What's he doing with these extra hours? Because I'm looking at it and I feel like going, Gary, we're playing Liverpool in 2 weeks. You're talking about us finishing above Liverpool. You're talking about us having a better midfield than Liverpool. We're not even ready to start the season. Liverpool haven't bought anybody. The only thing that's changed at Liverpool is the manager, but their team is the same fucking team as last year. We're not even ready for the start of this season, and you're talking about us finishing above Liverpool and having a better midfield. And I just, you know, it's a meme in the making, isn't it? Two weeks away at Old Trafford, we lose 4-0. What's he going to do? Well, we're Manchester United. I haven't seen much improvement. Ten Hag out. And I'll be there going, let me just read this receipt from 2 weeks ago. We've got a better midfield than Liverpool, and we're going to finish above them. From the Prime Minister of Football, Gary Neville. Bjorn Key, welcome to Members Club. I'm in a good mood, but I am a bit, I'm ready to this morning. One of the funniest dudes in this community, says Duma, and it's like we're trying to sell ice to Eskimos, says Pete Phillips. I don't know whether that's politically correct now. I don't know whether you can say that about what you just said. I think there's a different terminology, Pete, but I stand corrected if I'm wrong. Summit, welcome to the Members Club. And Tilak says, did United play hardball and fail miserably to sell Scott the past 2 years? Why are we not ruthless like Juventus selling Chiesa? Because we're in debt, mate. They hate us yet worry so much about our transfers, says MMA Takedown. I wonder who City's McTominay is, says Rory C. Rory, you're a legend. Don't normally use the word Rory and legend, but you're our Rory. You're a legend, mate. Absolutely true. Where is Man City's Scott McTominay? Where is Arsenal's Scott McTominay? Where's bloody Spurs' Scott McTominay? I mean, I feel like I'm living in the 80s. I'll tell you what, if you listen to the radio this morning, you'd think you were listening to the 80s. Oh, everybody needs a Scott McTominay. The big man that you throw on up front. I want to throw up. Morning, Mark. Watching from South Africa since Jose. It's my 21st birthday. Happy birthday, Jandre. And want to say thank you. All the laughs during the years, United. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Mark, we need that Rashford. We need the killer Rashford this season. And Patrick Lynch says Nev's comments were to put pressure on the manager. Mates, you're switched on. Patrick Lynch is switched on. Those Gary Neville comments about us having a better midfield than Liverpool and finishing above Liverpool. I don't. Fair play to Patrick, because I'm not here to necessarily look. I want to appeal to everybody. I want everyone to have an opinion. That was my opinion. I was like, okay, so I've heard him in the same interview say, we've got a better midfield than Liverpool. We're going to finish above Liverpool. And injuries aren't an excuse again. And I thought, I ain't stupid. I listened to this guy week in, week out for years. He thinks he's being clever. What he's actually doing is reverse psychology. This is about putting pressure on Ten Hag, because if we do lose to Liverpool, he's going to come out with a big rant and go, "We should be." I said we should be finishing above them because we should be. He's talking arse. I don't look at that Liverpool. I don't look at that Liverpool team and think they're catchable for us. I mean, we've just spent 20 minutes talking about we haven't got a midfield. I haven't got a midfield. Like, it's not ready for the start of this season, and whoever's fault that is, it's not ready. So we're not gonna. I'm worried about Brighton on Saturday. I mean, I hope we can win, but I'm worried. Gundogan to City is a disheartening deal, says United want. But this is what happens when you're a well-oiled machine. And yes, focus on oil. But actually, it's also a saying for a system that works. It's a well-oiled machine at Manchester City, and they don't have debt. They have got revenue. They have got wiggle room. They have got a squad. They can just go, "Oh, that looks good. Let's do it." I mean, at the end of the day, Man City are walking through Harrods with with pockets full of money, just going, "We're not looking. We're not buying. We're just looking. Oh, actually, we will take that." And then United are outside asking people, "Can they borrow a fiver?" It's worlds apart at the moment. Yeah, but look, also, just on the McTominay thing. So there's talk this morning that Napoli want a loan deal again. And I just feel that the time is starting to shift. We're still working on this Ugarte loan deal, full-time deal, which we've been working on for 2 months. Let's not forget, 2 months we've been working on this, trying to find some ground with PSG. Got 9 days. The McTominay deal that was looking really good at the start of the week looks like it's Napoli or nothing. And they're talking about a loan deal again. But also in Italy, they're now talking about Conte's admiration for Amrabaat. So what we could end up with here, very, very easily, is McTominay staying and Amrabaat going to Napoli. And you just sit there and go, this is a madness. Like what has actually gone on here? And look, I don't believe in... I think the Glazer Man United, we all know Glazer Man United was a PR machine. They even recruited people who were monitoring social media and putting things out to make players be popular on social media. That's well documented. I don't think that's fair to level that against Ineos at all, because they are dealing with a lot of problems and they shouldn't be focusing on, fake PR for different aspects of the football club. I think they need to focus on the open goals that will make the club more popular, which they have been doing, CEO, etc. But I was thinking about this morning. Like, am I wrong when I look at this and say, how can anybody give this transfer window more than a 7, even if we get Ugarte? Maybe 7.5. But I've seen people talking about 8s and 8.5s. And I'm like, let me just read this list back to you. At the start of the summer transfer window, everybody accepted, in the majority, that there was a number of senior players that needed to be moved on because they weren't good enough, or they'd been here too long, or they were too expensive. And those 7 players were Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire, Casemiro, McTominay, Jadon Sancho, and Christian Eriksen. 7 senior players who were either on too much money or not good enough, or a combination of the two. 7. 6 of them are still here. That is we can move on some of these young lads like Fish and Kamwala. We've done that before with James Garner. We can say we sold Mason Greenwood. We didn't have any bloody choice. We can say we sold Donny. We basically gave him his bus fare. The players that needed to be moved out, we have not moved out. And if it's 1 or 2, you can get by. But it's 6. That is like 20-30% of your squad that is still toxic or Deadwood or not good enough or overpaid. It's baggage. It's baggage, and it's still here. I don't know where you put the blame on that. I don't even know if you can put the blame on that. But it's very disappointing. It's very disappointing. And I feel that we've been flirted with, really, all summer. Sancho's going here, Sancho's going there, Sancho's going here. Oh, he's staying. Another summer where decent offers have come in for Scott McTominay, like last year. Oh, he's staying. Lindelof and Maguire, 0 interest. Eriksen, 0 interest. It's been, it is disappointing because I think when you talk about a second midfielder, we haven't even got a first midfielder. I think when you talk about Elise and a right winger, that is probably the prime example of what I'm talking about. Ineos desperately wanted Elise. They really, really wanted Elise. You can talk to anybody in the know and they will tell you he was, with Branthwaite, really high priority. Really high priority. We're not even bringing a winger in. A left back, high priority. Fuck knows what we're doing there. And if you don't see the correlation between the failure to move on Casemiro, Sancho, Eriksen, McTominay, Lindelof, Maguire, if you don't realise that not moving them 6 players on, or even 2 or 3 of them on, hasn't stopped us getting Elise or a second midfielder or a left back, then you're very naive. And that's for me why there is an element of disappointment to this transfer window, because we're still stuck with the same players. And, that's why I find it incredible that someone like Gary Neville's putting us 3rd place in the Premier League. And it is reverse psychology, because ultimately he probably wants Ten Hag out. But, it's our job to also talk about the reality. I hear plenty of people shouting and screaming about, the media, they're just having a go at us, shut up, back your team, this, that and the other. But I don't give a shit about what the media say, because they're not Man United fans. There are ongoing issues within this football club that we need to have our eyes open to, because the biggest mistake you can do is sit there going Billy Big Bollocks to the media and everyone else going, yeah, United, hated, adored, never ignored, and then we lose. We lose again. And then you suddenly look, all right, twat. We've got our own battles to fight, and there is a huge issue here in relation to the inability to move people out. And I get the positivity. I'm very positive about some of the things that are happening. And actually, it's not negativity. It's an excuse. It's an excuse that we're stuck. We're still stuck with these players. And it really pisses me off when I get this sentimentality bullshit about we shouldn't be letting Wan-Bissaka go. We shouldn't be letting McTominay go. And then it's the same people who've been moaning for 10 years about how we're not anywhere near a title. They don't seem to understand the correlation between moving on this Deadwood and moving closer to the likes of Liverpool, Man City and Arsenal. You don't get in the top 4 and compete with titles with the likes of Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof, Christian Eriksen, Scott McTominay. You don't. You don't. And you know why you don't? Because we can't sell them. Because none of those clubs in the top 4 want anything to do with them. So we've still got them. And that's the simple maths. People think, sentimentality, let's keep Wan-Bissaka, let's keep McTominay, let's keep Lindelof. And you go, hold on a minute. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. But you want to keep them and get top 4. It won't work out. The maths don't work. Nobody wants them. Not even mid-table Premier League clubs want them. And yet you think we should keep them because they'll do a job in a race for top 4. And yet, what's the saying? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. We've got 6 players that could really fuck us up this season again, because ultimately, across a big season, they're not good enough. I live in Belgium, and there is a growing rumour in the press that Anderlecht are interested in buying Eriksen for a 5 million fee. Jad, if Anderlecht want to give us 5 million for Christian Eriksen and give him 150k a week, which is what they'll have to do, I would be checking the accounts of Anderlecht, because that is some sort of crazy money shit. Joshua says, we're all banging on about a midfielder when left back is the most pressing matter. Matty says, no one wants to pay 30 million for Scott. What does that say? Average. Never ever win the league again if he's getting minutes. I mean, Matty, I sort of skirted around that, but why are Napoli not willing to give us more than 20 million euros for Scott McTominay, which is 15 million pounds? Why were Fulham not willing to give us more than 20 million pounds for Scott McTominay, but they'd give Arsenal 35 for Smith Rowe? The bottom line is, Matty's right. It ain't worth it. Only Manchester United and Ten Hag think that McTominay's valuable. The rest of the footballing world don't value him. And that's a horrible thing to say, because I think he does have a value, but we've massively overvalued him. He's not the player United and Ten Hag think he is. If the rest of the football world don't want to pay £25 million, he's not worth £25 million. The bottom line is, people think Smith Rowe and Oliver Skipp are better than Scott McTominay. Now, I find that incredible, but I don't know what we're doing with valuing him at 30 million. I mean, the fact that we turned down 30 million a year ago is just You know, whoever turned that down should be sacked instantly. I'd love to know who said no to that. Biggest issue this window was defence. That's so much better now. 25 will be the midfield. Many Deadwood players out of contract next year, says Marcus. Well, yes and no. Eriksen's out of contract. Maguire's out of contract. Lindelof's out of contract. McTominay will have a new contract. Casemiro's got plenty of years left on his contract, as has Jadon Sancho. So you will still have these problems. The mentality that the players such as McTominay, etc., are the solutions is scary. No improvement after years, says Lionel. Wake up from this sad slumber and set higher benchmarks each player should aspire to. Gary Neville should wake up first. Thank you very much. Mark, did you see Gundogan to City? Here we go, says Parth. I mean, it was inevitable, wasn't it? And it's a fantastic bit of business. I mean, look, I'd have took Gundogan at Manchester United. I don't know about you. I would have. Oh, wow. I mean, God. I mean, I don't even know what I'm saying there. Of course, I'd have took Gundogan at Manchester United. It's absolutely huge that would happen, but obviously we've got no chance. Mark, how is Ineos not the one to be blamed for incapable of selling the Deadwood? They knew this when they were buying the club. They're supposed to have a solution, says Jeff. I mean, that might be a fair thing from Jeff. You know, can you put some blame onto Ineos? Lionel's given 5 memberships. John says, we need Ugarte and Amrabaat. If we don't get moving, we risk Napoli picking up Amrabat ahead of us, and then McTominay deal is really off, says John. And I hate the division we're already seeing in the fan base. Hoyland versus Xerxes. Why we like this, says Joshua. I hate it, mate. Absolutely hate it. All you can do, Joshua, is be passionate about your own voice. But yeah, Player FC ain't going to go anywhere, is it? It's we've been infiltrated by this toxic nonsense where, you know, you almost have to be careful what you say about a player sometimes because their fan club will be all over you. But it's not about what's best for Manchester United. It's about what's best for the player that they support. And yeah, it's a stain on the game, really, in my opinion. But going back to what you were saying about the Ineos thing, can they have any blame on them? I mean, the only blame I would put on Ineos for not being able to sell players is because actually they knew what they were doing, I suppose. If Qatar was in charge and they cleared the debt, then we would be clearing out some of these players because we'd be able to afford to do it. It's really difficult for Manchester United in their current setup to say to somebody like Christian Eriksen, piss off, you know, we don't want you around anymore, just go and get a free transfer. There's 5 million, take it in your pocket and pay him off. It's very hard to do what Juventus are doing where they're just transfer listing players and saying you're not coming on the tour. To do that, you've got to be in a financially stable position. I'm not talking about compliance with FFP. I'm just saying financially as a football club, you're in a good position. And if you had Qatar in charge, it wouldn't make you financial fair play compliant to pay Eriksen off 5 million, but you'd be able to afford to do it if you wanted to do it. We can't afford to do that. Now, that's not Ineos' fault because they didn't give the contract to Eriksen in the first place. However, they did eyes open buy the club for 28% with over $500 million of debt. So, and also, I knew Eriksen's contract was 150k a week a year ago. So Ineos knew it as well. What they've done is they've bought a club with huge issues and they're not going to be very quick solving them because some of these issues they can't solve because their hands are tied. It'd be a very different story if Sir Jim Ratcliffe had the whole club and cleared the debt, but that's not the deal. So we just have to get on with it, I suppose. There is a little bit of positivity around the midfield, though, although it is a little bit more long term. You may have seen this morning. We certainly did. It's coming in from a very good source in Italy, Alfredo Padula, who got a lot right last summer. He says that Serie A side Atalanta could be preparing to lose another prized asset at some point in the future as Manchester United are attempting to lay down a foundation for the move for their Brazilian Edison. Alfredo Padula has told Sport Italia about the situation of the midfielder, revealing that Manchester United executives were present at the Atalanta headquarters today. While the main job was related to sorting out some details in their move for Rasmus last summer, they also asked for information for Edison. United like Edison a lot, and the contact made to seek information was rather cordial. Atalanta responded calmly, and the relationship between the two clubs is quite good due to the previous deals involving the two. The possibility that a transfer will be discussed in the near future and contacts will continue in the next few months. It is mentioned that United's approach for information cannot be taken for granted. I tell you what, I think what we're looking at there is a longer term approach for Ederson, because I know Dan Ashworth wanted him at Newcastle in January. And I know Man United spent most of last season scouting Ederson. And I was surprised that we never moved for him this summer. But I do wonder if the fact that Atalanta have been so resolute on keeping him this summer has also played into the hands that there may be some lingering agreement, whether verbal or written, with Newcastle, that we're not allowed to go for any targets that Newcastle had discussed with Ashworth in the first summer transfer window. And I do also think that Casemiro staying may have also had a bit of an issue on, had something to do with it as well. So, look, it's one for the future. And there is a future. There is a future. We have a now, and we have a frustrating now in relation to getting players out. But there is also a future. I mean, I think in football, you snooze, you lose. You can't be looking too far ahead, because if we have a bad season, what I would say to those people who say, well, in the future, we'll get rid of players, and in the future, we'll be able to bring other players in. That is great. And I think you're right. But the future doesn't wait when it comes to football. And if you're sat there going, well, we'll get a left back next season, we'll get rid of some of these players next season, etc. What if the results go bad and we sack Ten Hag before next summer? You've then got another manager who's rebuilding in a different way. And that's the problem with it. It's when you're planning for the future, that future may not be the future you think it's going to be. But I do think Ederson's an interesting one, because I think with Casemiro, we will still be looking to get rid of him in 12 months' time. And if he does go, even with Ugarte coming in, I think Ederson's an interesting player to just keep monitoring. And I'm for one, I'm very excited that one, that source is very good, but two, it sort of fits with a lot of things around Ashworth and scouting and Casemiro staying as to why there probably wasn't a move for Ederson this summer. But in the future, it's something that we can revisit, because that midfield is so not ready. Even if Ugarte comes in, that midfield's not sorted. And I don't think people understand that. It amazes me when people say that we've got good midfield depth. We really don't. Like, we've got a lot of midfielders, but Casemiro, even if Casemiro redeems himself, he's on borrowed time. He's not for the future. Mainoo's obviously for the future. Bruno's for the now. Mount, we don't really know anything about. So I would look at our midfield at the moment, and I would say, apart from Mainoo and Bruno, there's question marks over Casemiro, Mount, certainly Eriksen, certainly McTominay, and obviously Collier as a kid. So really, in our midfield that you can count on, you've got Mainoo and Bruno. You need at least another two. Now, hopefully Collier comes through. Hopefully Mount defines himself. But McTominay, Eriksen and Casemiro are not part of the future. So even just bringing Ugarte in, you still need someone else to come in. And maybe Ederson can be that over the next 12 months. How United can't afford players is disgusting. One of the biggest revenues in the world, and we're skint. This is embarrassing. Glazers out, says Anders. And Rayan says, going through extremely tough time in life, your regular updates is what keeps me going. Thank you so much. Well, Rayan, I hope you're doing well. And thanks very much for tuning in. And obviously, we're live so many times a day. 10 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So you've always got that moment in the day where you can catch up with us and feel part of something. So Rayan, stay strong. Thank you very much for your lovely message. Texas Eddie says, McTominay on 60k, Rashford on 300k. We should sell Rashford first. Well, look, it's funny how Rashford pops up, because I think it's just a big topic of conversation, isn't it? We spoke about the Barcelona story last night, and I think most of us think it's going to be complete and utter nonsense. I look at the Rashford situation, and I think that I'm actually quite surprised PSG didn't go for him. I mean, unless somebody tells me what PSG have done with their transfer window, I'm quite surprised, because although, I think Rashford at Barcelona, if everybody wanted it to happen, would be a good deal. We know that there was some interest from PSG before. Mbappe has gone. They're not getting Liao. They're not getting Osimhen. I'm really surprised that PSG didn't make a play for Rashford, actually, because that would have solved a lot of problems with the Ugarte deal, wouldn't it? And I think it would have been a good move for him. But I think what's happened with Rashford is he absolutely, adamantly doesn't want to leave Man United. And Man United cannot sell a player, whether they want to or not. And I don't think they do. But you can't sell a player that you've just given a huge contract to 12 months ago on huge wages. If he says, I'm not going, he's got more power than the club. And he doesn't want to go. So PSG, I think, would have been an interesting one. But I don't think PSG ever looked at him anyway. I was thinking about that this morning. Like, PSG were meant to do loads of things around replacing Mbappe, and they really haven't. Daniel, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much. Rocket says, your show's really brighten up my day. You're a legend, mate. Thank you very much for that. I'm just looking at a quick... just something coming in from Swedish Rumble on Twitter in the last few minutes. Says that PSG must sell Ugarte to comply with FFP. He says that in August 2022, UEFA found that PSG had breached the then football learning rules by recording a loss of approximately 370 million euros. As a consequence, the UEFA and PSG entered into settlement agreement, which intends to get PSG back on track. The settlement agreement with UEFA has basically led to a situation that PSG must reduce its loss of 340 million euros to a loss of 202, and then to a loss of 30 million in 24. So they've got a, basically, long story short, PSG have a settlement agreement with UEFA going back from 2022 with a 4-year plan on what they need to do each year. And to be compliant, they need to sell some players. So, yeah, look, I think Ugarte will join Man United. I don't think there's much of a doubt around that. But, you know, I think Man United want to do a permanent deal there. I would prefer a permanent deal. And it is interesting to see how it might play out. So I get sent so much stuff, and I remember saying this when the transfer window closed a couple of years ago. The very next day, an article came out in the Manchester Evening News, and it was like, Man United's wonder summer next summer. And I was like, this summer's transfer window's just closed, and you're writing an article about what Man United are going to do next summer. And I just got sent a message there to say that when you look at what Man United might be planning for next summer, there'll be huge money to spend. And I'm like, I couldn't give a shit. Couldn't give a shit what we're going to do next summer. What does that matter? Like, I don't think people understand that next summer's next summer, and we've got 9 months of football, and we've got a manager that the media want to sack as soon as he loses a game. Next summer, spending a load of money is a total waste of time if it's a new manager rebuilding again. If we've got a load of money to spend next summer and it's with this manager on top of what he's already built, happy days. But we've got to navigate the next 9 months. I never understand people who look at next summer and go, oh, we could be spending loads. You've got to get through 9 months of football. Because if you sack a manager, look at Chelsea. You can spend $1 billion, but if you're sacking your manager every year, you may as well have spent 300 million, because every 300 million you're spending is for a new manager to rebuild in the way that they want to build. Money's irrelevant if you're spending it on somebody else. The only progress is if you keep building something that you're building. I couldn't give a shit about next summer. It means nothing because I don't know who's going to be in charge of the team next summer. And if it's a new manager, they'll rip this down and rip it up again, and it just costs loads of money to do that. And it's always next summer, says Mutant. Exactly. I think we've had a really... Look, if Ugarte comes in, we've had a good incomings. Let's not be negative. We've had a good incomings. We've got Mazraoui, we've got Yoro, we've got De Ligt, hopefully Ugarte, we've got Xerxes, and we've also got somebody I've completely forgotten. Why have I forgotten someone there? Mazraoui, De Ligt, Yoro, Ugarte, Xerxes. Is that it? 5? Oh, I thought there was someone else. No, that's right. There is 5, yeah. Obi Martin as well, but yeah, that wasn't who I was thinking about. That's not too bad for a first summer when you compare to what a lot of people have done. It's the outgoings that's disappointing. It's the outgoings. Hi, Mark. Any transfer news regarding Ugarte, says Frederick? Well, we spoke briefly about him at the start. I would say about Ugarte, I'm absolutely convinced it will happen. We spent more time talking about outgoings this morning, but I'm absolutely convinced that will happen. If Rashford's season was better, PSG, Barca would bite, says Tom Grant. And how many signings and outgoings do you think will happen, says John? At the moment, it looks like one more signing and that's it, says John. I think that it's a good question. Let me know what your thoughts are. I think Ugarte comes in, definitely, and then that could be it. But I get the feeling there might be a bonus that Ineos would like to throw in to say we're different. I don't think Ineos want to be one more with 9 days to go, because that's sort of like what we've done for 10 years. You know, it's a disappointing one, and that's it. I think Ineos might want to throw a curveball in at the end because it's their first summer. And I mean, that curveball could be Amrabaat as well. It could be a left back on loan. But I think we'll get 2 in, because I think Ineos will just want to be a little bit, let's end it on a positive, doing something that's a little bit exciting. Because, look, it's not even the quality of the exciting thing you do in the last day. You think about Agallo, you think about Weghorst. We've done business on the last day that just makes the last day exciting. It doesn't mean the player's any good. So I think there might be a little bit of a curveball. Outgoings is where I would say there might be nothing. There might be nothing. Outgoings. I mean, tell me who's going. I can't see, and I don't count Will Fish or any of the youth. Significant outgoings. I don't know. At the moment, you'd hope Eriksen, Sancho, McTominay. I'm not convinced any of them are going to go. I really am not. I think we are, and I think that's a really bad advert for Ineos. Not them. But it's a really bad advert if you walk out of this summer transfer window and Casemiro's here, Sancho's here, Maguire's here, Lindelof's here, Eriksen's here, McTominay's here. Because I'll tell you for free, those 6 players all expected to be out of this football club by Ineos. So it's a really bad advert that we can't get rid of players that we wanted to get rid of. Let's all remember that story in May. Well briefed to everybody from Simon Stone to James Ducker. This was a briefed story that everybody's for sale, apart from Bruno, Højlund, Garnacho and Mainu and Dalot. Everybody was for sale. Everybody had a price. And yet none of them have gone. So when you put everybody up for sale and nobody wants them, it's a bit of a downer. I don't know. Yeah. Punch Paint says, ban Luckhurst and all the shit journalists. James Howard says, thanks for all your effort with the channels and building this community. Great way to wind down with a beer after work from Australia, says James. I love the fact that it's the end of your day. It's just the start of ours. But thanks, James. Appreciate that. Sam says, the best summer would be one where we don't need to spend massively, as we've had a balanced squad settled with youth coming through, just needing tweaks. Sam, you're a legend. I absolutely crave this. You know, I actually want to be at a point where we don't spend loads of money every summer transfer window. I actually think what Liverpool done is ridiculously brave. Imagine Liverpool fight for the title this year, having bought nobody. You know, this obsession with spending loads of money every summer. I actually want United to get to a point where I look at the squad and I go, it's really strong, let's just tweak it. And yet every summer for the last 10 years, it's all about how many are we going to sell? How many are we going to buy? And that's the problem. You're right. We never sell people. So every summer transfer window, we're trying to replace, we need to replace the shit we need to sell. So we've got to buy, but we also need to sell. And until we get rid of all this shit and replace it, every summer will always be, we need a big summer. And next summer, already, we know we won't be sat there going, we just need to tweak it. Because next summer, we're still going to have a pile of shit that we didn't get rid of again. So I long for the day, like Sam does, where we actually sort this squad out and we just need to tweak it. Anyway, look, thanks everybody this morning. Absolute legends. We're back. What day is it? Wednesday. Yeah, we're back at 2 o'clock and we've got an 8 o'clock show tonight. 12:30 on Saturday is our next game, isn't it? So yeah, let's see what today brings. Have a great one. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Take care. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll speak to you all in a bit. Thank you for watching.